when your energy is right, when you are in alignment with showing up through the lens of joy, of excitement, of play, the strategy presents itself. It's like you can actually choose any strategy you want and it will work when your energy is right and in alignment.
100%. 100%. Hello, seekers. Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. My name is Talia Joy. I'm your host. Today, I'm sitting down with Kiki Rae. This is such an incredible conversation. Kiki is someone that I met in person at an event in this past year and hugged in real life. And she was just an incredible human that stood out. I knew I wanted to have her on the show. She is a wealth embodiment mentor for spiritual entrepreneurs, and she is running an incredible business. She's got a beautiful mission, and it was a pleasure to have her for this conversation. So today we are talking about being wildly wealthy. As in true Kiki fashion, she goes into so much more, so much depth, so many juicy nuggets about her healing journey and what she's been through and claiming her self-worthiness and how that ties into money and becoming wealthy. And it's just such an inspiring interview. I know you're going to get so much out of this. So make sure to check the show notes below. As always, support our guests. Go find her on Instagram and the links below. And I know you're going to love this conversation. So without further ado, let's just jump in and welcome Kiki onto the show. Hello, Kiki. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, my love?
I am so good. I am so thrilled to be here and sharing in this beautiful energy with you. Even like right before we started, just your voice and the way in which you carry yourself, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. I'm so excited to be here.
It's like juicy is the word I hear. Like our energies are just like something about it. It's plump.
Yes. Yeah.
Whatever that
means. Plump. I love it.
Ripe, ready to go. We're good. We are.
Ma'am.
Yep. Saturated. I love it. You were sharing that you're in Nicaragua right now.
Yeah. I have been coming here for 5 years now, 4 years. This is my 4th year coming here. And it was like right before the pandemic. This almost feels a little full circle to be talking about because my business in 2020, when I first came here, was like just starting, just budding. And, I went through, as we talked about, and I'm sure we will get to, like this low in my business. And now we're back on the upswing. And just there are so many synchronicities that happen while I am here. So I love that like your energy is still like very close by here.
Yeah. Because you're from Canada, right? You're from Alberta?
I'm from Toronto.
Oh, from Toronto. Okay. So you escape, you do the Canadian thing, escape for the winter.
I hacked the snowbird system very early and I am not mad about it.
Yeah. I hear you. Winter's my least favorite. I appreciate for all of you. I know this, the power of the seasons. We all need an inner winter, but I get cold, man. I get cold from like the end of September, October, all the way until like March. And we think it's going to be spring and then it's cold still. And I just feel like that entire time I'm wrapped in a blanket, ready for that sunshine. That's the part is like the sunshine and those, the bright skies. And anyway, yeah. So
I literally lay out and just appreciate the sunshine on my face every single morning because I'm the exact same way. I lost my thyroid in 2015. And ever since, I am a cold creature. I am not meant for Canada winters anymore.
Good to know yourself in that.
Yes.
I know myself. I must travel in the winter.
Yes,
I love that. So I am so excited to get into what we're talking about today. I kept hearing as we're, deciding what to talk about in our angle, but I was like this wealth, I keep hearing wealth energetics because I love how you bring that understanding into the area of abundance. And when you're helping either entrepreneurs or people that are looking to make more money, really understanding that wealth is different sometimes than just money. And I can't wait for everything we're going to talk about. And I'm so excited. So why don't you just start by just sharing with us a little bit about who you are and how you started doing this?
Yeah, totally. So I am Kiki Rae. um, digital nomad, but also just lover of personal development, continuous education. I started after I lost my thyroid, I really got into this like desire to just live a healthier life. And in that process, I discovered personal development and spirituality. And it just started me on this whole other path of way of living life. And from there, I was like, oh, I see other people living this like freedom lifestyle. And I had just gotten into the corporate and realizing that was absolutely not meant for me. And as I was learning and sharing about personal development and growth, people started saying, you should really like, have you considered being a life coach? And I always giggled when that came back to me because as soon as I discovered it, I was like, this is what I need to do. So I was like, yeah, it's in the 5 year plan. It's in the 5 year plan. And then 2 years later, I was opening my own, company to support people. It started with mindset, then spirituality, grew into business. And as I learn more, I am a forever learner. I'm about to have 15 different certifications. I have 11 right now. So there is a lot that I have done in a short amount of time to be able to support my clients.
Mm.
And I was starting to go down the route of trauma informed healing. And what I realized was while I am trauma informed, I don't have the depth of like trauma trained. And I want to support people in having a safe place to be, but I didn't want to do like the healing, like the heavy healing work.
Mhm.
And so as I was kind of getting certification after certification, I realized I was going through my own journey, my own process. My business was starting to really take off. I had a really successful, like my first ever multi 5 figure month in my business. And then all of a sudden, this ceiling just came in and humbled the fuck out of me. And I
Mhm.
realized I had my own inner work and healing and things to do. And it was a very difficult 2 year journey of basically losing everything. I went into a crazy freeze trauma response. I had a very unsupportive partner at the time. I had a best friend leave my life because she didn't like who I had become. And all of these things just happen all basically at the same time. And I became a victim of my circumstance. And so then I went into this 2 year of like pushing away everything. Success meant pain. I'm too much. I'm too big. I'm this, all of my unworthiness wounds. And I tried that on for about 2 years and it really just didn't serve me. It didn't bring the girl back. It didn't make my relationship better. And so I decided I can't keep going like this. It's like, it's too hard. It's too much. And a coaching call with my mentor, she came along and she just asked me, she goes, what do you want? Because I said to her, I'm like, I'm so tired of my business. It's taking like everything from me. And she goes, what do you want? And I said, this was not me who was speaking. This was like the highest self me saying, I just want to be wildly wealthy. And I didn't even realize where that was coming from at that point. And I wanted to be wildly wealthy. And she goes, what does that look like for you? Let's create this vision. And it did, and everything just kind of shifted from there. This was just back in August. And so I realized that it was okay for me to desire wealth. It was okay and safe for me. I've always loved money. Like I've always loved money. But that's something that's very shameful and very, people have a lot of guilt around. And I was struggling with that. And I just realized, you know what? If I'm not going to do it, like someone else will. And
Mm.
so why not me?
Mm.
And everything just started shifting from that moment.
Mm. Oh my goodness. On an energetic level too, it's like you were separate from money. And as soon as you started having the thoughts of like, why not me?
Why
You
not?
start that process of coming together with it. Like I always felt like that, like wealthy people were in like a different category. And when I
Yeah.
started more seeing abundance and seeing evidence of these things already, and I'd kind of look around and be like, well, if they have this crazy expensive car and they have this, like, why not me?
Why
And
not me?
it's such a crazy, subtle, yet huge pivot inside. Why
Yeah.
not me? Are they more somehow deserving or smarter or what, like all these stories that we play? They must know something that I don't. And
Right.
so it's, or they're more worthy somehow or more professional, whatever. It's like, why not me? Why not me? That's powerful.
That was the thing that I had to go through. It was like the worthiness. And in that moment when I decided, okay, I do want this, I do desire this, it was about coming back home, like exactly what you said, deciding that I was worthy of it and that I had tried. I was like, okay, I've spent the past 2 years in struggle, in sacrifice, in going without. And let me tell you, that didn't feel as good as when I was making the 20K month. Like,
Mhm,
and it
mhm,
had nothing to do with the money itself, but it was everything to do with like how I felt as a human.
mm,
And I was very much in, expansion and excitement and living life on fire. Like my soul was just on fire. I was serving people. I was getting from my clients, not financially, energetically. It was
mm,
just, life was going like this and it was so great. And then to give all of that up, to push it away, and to live as a shell of my former self, to dim myself, to protect myself from the projections of other people. That was just, ooh, like it makes my
mm,
stomach just go like this, right? And so
mhm,
I said, okay, well, which way would I prefer to live? And I'm
mhm,
going to tell you, I'm going to choose the one where I feel wealthy in all aspects of life. But it was the choice to feel wealthy first that brought in the financial wealth. It's
mhm.
not the other way around.
Yeah, that's so trippy because you hear that, but when you're in lack and scarcity, I just remember so many days of like hunched over my computer being like, okay, I got to write the perfect automated email flow, the perfect $7 ebook. My success is out there. My success is out there. This discomfort of lack needs to
Mhm.
be remedied with a fucking plan because I have an ego. And so that masculine energy comes in like, hey, what are we going to do? And it's like, okay, if I just get the right thing and I tap in the right place and I do the right thing under the new moon, then like 10K months, they're mine because I'm saying I'm open to receive, right?
But what's
But
so funny is
yeah.
you doing this. It's the tension, it's the shoulders up around your ears. It's that energy of like you are resisting in
Yeah.
that like hunched over energy. And so that's
Mhm.
not where it comes from.
Mhm.
It's the inner part that magnetizes. And I'll tell you, like the lack and the scarcity, I was doing the exact same thing. That energy can be felt by your audience, from your clients. And like I had past clients who have been working with me for like 5 years, they'll come in and out or, step into one thing, then step into the next. And I had a couple people say, I don't know what has shifted, but something has shifted and I can see it. And
Mhm.
like
I love
that.
Yeah, our communities are the best sort of, people to reflect that back sometimes because I'll have that as well where it's like, damn, like you were on fire before, but I can feel your and this is good because this brings it back. I think that's the healing work that in some ways we don't have to just like heal and heal and heal for the rest of our lives. Parallel to that, we're always going to be healing and
Yes.
creating space. Parallel to that, you already have that magnetism inside you. And parallel to that, all the healing work has like had me step into this. So it's almost sometimes confusing, because the healing work in some ways is what frees you up to realize that you always had it in you and that you
Totally.
always were capable and able of creating whatever you want. So it's kind of interesting. I'd almost like to ask you about that. Like, what is your take on like the healing work you had to do? Was it the sort of money blocks? Was it the, and what can others be doing in this journey to be moving toward more wealth, just in respect to the healing?
I love that. The biggest thing that I realized is that I was putting my power outside of me. I was
Mhm.
giving my power away to my ex partner, to my ex best friend, to all of these people. And that, like I said earlier, put me in the victim mindset. And what I realized was I am a big energy, and like that's okay. It's okay to
Mhm.
be big. It's okay to be confident. It's okay to show up and shine bright and know that your shining bright is going to blind the fuck out of some people and they're not your people. And that's okay. Like what I couldn't
Mm.
disconnect from at that point was that this person who had been in my life since the fourth grade could just so easily walk out, you know? And what I didn't realize at the time was that not all friendships are meant to last. Like sometimes you outgrow people. I don't wish her any ill will. I want the best for her. And like sometimes that just fizzles. So
Mhm.
it was really about coming back to me, healing the unworthiness piece, right? Her leaving was like a huge trigger to my inner child who had to beg for people to be friends with me, who had to, do the right thing and say the right thing and not be too big in order
Mhm.
to gain acceptance. And so there were all of these pieces that just came one after the other. And then finally, once it was like the deeper unworthiness, like my core wounding of unworthiness, and realizing that like, oh, I have the power to turn on my own magnetism. It's like not, someone doesn't just give it to me, I create it. That was then when it opened up to the money piece, to the wealth energetics, realizing like I am not going to get anywhere by guilting and shaming myself for where I've been, for where I'm currently at. I have to come into radical self acceptance and I've got to change. I can't keep going down this path. And
Mhm.
so it was, okay, what do I start doing in order to change where I'm not like begging my clients to come and sign with me, that I'm showing up in my power and naturally people will just come in. And that's kind of what happened. So the biggest thing that I did in that time was I started challenging myself to do things that were outside of my comfort zone, such as burning an account of almost 10,000 people to the ground and starting fresh on Instagram and choosing that I was going to post every single day for 90 days. Then did a 30-day live challenge on the back of that, all while also doing my own inner work of a confidence Kriya from like a Kundalini practice. I was getting certified in Kundalini at the time. So I was also waking up at 4:30 in the morning to practice Kundalini for 2 hours every single day for 40 days.
Wow.
It was a lot. It was a lot. But that, and it sounds like a lot. It felt like a lot, but it sounds like a lot. You don't have to go balls to the wall like that, but you do need to be doing the things that stretch you. And
Mhm.
I think that's the thing of like, what is that little whisper in your soul
Mm.
calling you to do that if you keep ignoring it, it's going to turn into a talk and then a scream. And then it's going to be like a volcano erupting out of
Then it
you.
knocks your knees out and
Correct.
you get sick or you have a breakdown or, rock bottom.
Correct. Exactly.
Mhm. Oh, I love how you said that you were putting wealth outside yourself
Mhm.
in some way, right? And like giving our power away. And I think there's just something so powerful because you had your example of how you did that. And I, even when I said like, what's the perfect email flow? I remember forever the part of wealth and abundance that was outside myself is like, there's a strategy, there's a
Yeah.
right way to do it. And I need to figure that out. And so I would prioritize, as I said, hunching over my computer, shoulders up at my ears, feeling not enough, desperate, creating all these emails I didn't want to create over doing yoga or going
Right.
for a walk to the beach. And I had a moment, it was probably about 5 years ago now. And I was literally, that was the moment I'm over my computer and my inner guide is going, go to the river. It was like a hot day. I was like, all I want to do is just go to the river. So go to the river. I'm like, I can't. I have all these emails like MailChimp.com, success me, right? Hurry up. And I'm trying to do this. And it's like my back's hurting. And my inner guide is like, go to the river. And I'm like, I can't, dude. I got shit to do. And it just got to this point where like my back's hurting. And I just had this realization like, I'm probably not creating my best emails right now anyway. So fine, let's go to the river. And I drove out. It was a river spot, like not even very close to me. So I drive out by myself. I love spending time on my own and I'm sitting on the rocks and I'm like doing my mermaid thing. I'm like, wow, this feels so much better. And I jump in the river and it's clean and kind of cold. And I get back on the rock and I'm just like thinking like, wow, this feels so much better than being at home. And I kind of had this trickle of realizations that if I feel better, I'm probably going to actually be putting out better content when I am at my computer. I'm more magnetic. Stories weren't as much of a thing, but if I was to show up right now, I'd be more magnetic than when I was at home,
Right.
clinkety clinking on my computer. But I just had all these thoughts of like, yeah, this is me feeling better. This is more a match for abundance and success and clients than what I was doing. Would I ever tell a client to do that? And it kind of was just, a cascade of thoughts. And I spent that, a while there. And when I got into my car after and I checked my phone and a payment had come through from someone that was like on the fence, didn't know if she wanted to jump in. And it was
We
like,
love
first
that.
payment sent. Thanks. Can't wait to start Monday. And I was like, holy shit, there is something here. Yeah.
It works.
And life is always feedbacking on you. And I believe too, your spirit team does things like that, or maybe your soul to show you like, yes, this direction. It might be angel numbers. It might be you find a dime, but you're shown when you pivot, when you push through that growth edge. And for me, it's like, fine, I'll go the river. I was pretending success was in a formula out there. And what I had to realize is success and abundance is in here. And especially at that time, it comes from pleasure. It comes from feeling good. So, for everybody listening, where are you putting wealth outside yourself?
I think that's so potent too, because one, the other morning, I literally took my butt for a walk. I did not want to go. I got to the top of this basically like 45-degree incline the whole way up. And as soon as I got to the top, I was dead. And then as I'm walking down, I'm like, oh, there's like that hit of inspiration. There it is. There it is. And I pull out my phone and I just start tap, 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 tap. And it flowed so perfectly. And it was just so funny because I'm like, oh, right. This is how it's done. It doesn't have to be hard. And the other thing I was going to say to what you were saying about the strategy is when your energy is right, when you are in alignment with showing up through the lens of joy, of excitement, of play, the strategy presents itself. It's like you can actually choose any strategy you want and it will work when your energy is right and in alignment.
100%, 100%. And if you do need someone to come in and do your books or do your website, that will more easily come in. Or, when you do show up, you're more magnetic. So your strategy, even if you don't get all the words right and you stumble and you felt awkward, people can feel your magnetism. Also, when I'm jazzed on what I'm doing and I'm really in alignment, I want to show up. So that's when I kind of do want to just be like, hey guys, I just want to jump on here and share my excitement or share a tool or offer value. And that's magnetic. So I love that you said it's like, it almost doesn't matter what you do. And that could be for health. That that could be, in relationships. It's like, it's not just about your mate is on Match.com or is on this app. It's like when you're being magnetic, you'll find each other, or, the people that are meant to come into your life. That's the magic.
When I started doing that Kriya, that confidence Kriya, it started raining men on me. It was the wildest. I was like, it was about to be very inappropriate. Where are all of these men coming from? It was just so like that hadn't happened in a very long time. And I was like, right. Okay. This is the work.
Yep.
This is it. It's fun. It gets to be fun. It gets to be playful.
And that's like, I wonder, even in your, in your perspective, why do you think that like seekers on the path, people in our community, like, why do we make money so hard and so stressful? Like, what is that?
It's our conditioning. It is absolutely our conditioning. It's our lineage. It's our karma. It's the shit. Okay. So I saw this thing the other day that just made so much sense about the quantum leap. The quantum leap doesn't come just from your energy and from like solely, vibrating out to attract in. There's also the work to be done around like disconnecting from the pattern, from the behavior, think of it as like an anchor tying you down. You can't ascend with this weight attached to you, right? There's no elevation when you're being weighed down by whatever the thing is. So it's about you to take on the new identity of the person that you desire to be, or the person who has the wealth. Like I was telling Talia before we hopped on, I thought to myself, like, who the fuck am I to be claiming myself as a wildly wealthy woman while I am 60K in debt, while I am barely able to make 3K months, and all of these things. And I was like, okay, I have been playing this very real 3D game of struggle, of hardship, of sacrifice, of not really getting much joy. Like, what if I were to just align my vision and play pretend for 3 months? And it was, insert number here. Play it for 14 days, play it for 30 days of waking up every single morning and asking yourself, who do I desire to be today? What would I be doing if I was already the woman making X amount of money? And that was the thing. And so I released that old habit of being the person that was doing all the disempowering shit. And that's where the inspiration for the 3 months of content came from. I just remember back in May, I could barely show up like twice a week to create a post. How do you go from that to creating content every single day for 90 days? You gotta be someone new. And that was like the thing. And now while it's still sometimes a challenge to create content, it's not as much as it was back then, because I have been conditioning myself in new ways and empowering ways. And that's been creating wealth for me.
Oh, I love that. And I love, the essence of what I teach, the foundation, the beginning of this whole podcast is quantum manifestation. That's where my fascination goes. That's where my soul is. That's where, like the quantum.
I could see your eyes just kind of.
Yeah, totally. I'm just like, yeah, I love it so much because it's the realm of unlimited possibilities. But I love what you said about, what would that version of me do? And for me, forever, I was like, well, in my head, I'm booking trips, I'm buying new this, I'm buying new that. And I had to actually break through that. I heard somewhere someone said, not just what you're buying, but who you're being. Like when you brush your teeth, what do you do before bed to set you up for success? And it was this, whoa, like, how am I being with my kids when I'm feeling impatient and hangry? Who am I being when I need to run around here and do 100 errands, or I'm ignoring my tooth that hurts? I'm not calling the dentist. Like it's those everyday things, not just what you're buying. And I think that that's powerful to think about because, when I have this money, I'm going to buy all that shit and then I'll be happy.
Right. How can I be wealthy when I don't have the money to buy the things that I want? I
Exactly.
always get that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, who are you being? It's the happiness, the wealth, the success, insert thing here, that comes in order for you to be able to do those things. It's not the other
Mhm.
way around. You have to feel, and this is why I talk about exactly what you said, wealth energetics, wealth embodiment, because wealth goes so much greater, so much vaster than just money, but people don't think about it like that.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it goes, how am I going to be wealthy when I don't have money? That was the problem, the piece that I was solving. And it was, okay, well, what would make me feel wealthy today that doesn't require money? Is it going for a run? Is it spending 10 minutes doing a Kundalini Kriya? Is it having a good, nourishing phone call with a friend of mine who I haven't talked to in a long time? Like, all of those things fill my cup and make me feel so wealthy that, like,
Mhm.
of course, then the money is a byproduct of already feeling wealthy. You have to take money out of the equation when you don't have the money to begin with.
I love that. And that's like the be do have, right? It's like
Yes.
people
Yes.
think that when I have the money, then I'll do the things and then I'm going to be happy, or then I'm going to
Right.
be happy and I'll do the things. And it's just backwards. It's like, no, who you are being is then leads you into the things you do. So when I am being flow, I'm going to go to the river, but then I'm also inspired to show up every day on Instagram or whatever, like you say. That's when those other things trickle into our experience. It's backwards the way we all think.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
think when you don't have money, or you don't have what you want as far as the amount, you put it on a pedestal. And then it also feels hard and like it's going to take a lot of strife because it's way over there and it's way like it's what I don't have. So that's why it's like, what would you do if you had this? That we just think I'm going to buy whatever,
Right.
because that's the thing we're almost idolizing. Like, I'm going to buy this stuff and cool. But have you ever bought something for yourself and not even taken it out of the box for a week because you kind of went like, meh, or tags on shirts that 2 months later you're like, oh, or you open it up, you wear your shoes or you get the new phone and within a week it's lost its mojo. It's
Hmm.
not the thing that
It's
brings you
not
the
the thing.
freedom.
Yes. And that's the thing. I put out a post a couple weeks ago saying, unpopular opinion, like, money truly does buy happiness, but not in the way that you think.
Mm-hmm.
Money buys you opportunity, it buys you flexibility. And that flexibility to be able to have more of the time and the freedom to do what you want is actually what you're after. You're after the emotion, you're not after the thing. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to think about, what is the base emotion that I am actually after?
Mm-hmm.
Insert whether it be success or happiness or even just like relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, start with that. If you don't have to worry about your bills every month anymore, what kind of relief would that bring for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how can I find relief in my everyday activities? And sometimes that means doing the hard thing, like spending a Sunday afternoon meal prepping,
Mm-hmm.
or doing the hard thing of, um, instead of watching 3 hours of Netflix, I am going to grant myself 1 hour of Netflix and I'm going to use those other 2 hours to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That provides us with relief. We're just not bringing awareness to it because we put the money on the pedestal. And so if we can start thinking about it in different ways, it's going to bring it to us a lot faster.
Yeah, I love that. I had a client who was really she really wanted to be traveling more and she just didn't have, she didn't feel like she had the finances for it, the freedom in her life. And we started talking about how can you bring in like, what do you love about traveling? She's like, I just love like road trips and music and snacks and new places. And I was like, how can we bring that into your life now? And so we kind of got to this place where she started going on little day trips, like
Yeah.
and she'd block off her calendar and leave her with her house in the morning with her car and drive around and go somewhere new and go to the beach and take herself for lunch and come back, after dinner time going like, I feel like I traveled today. I'm like, you created it. And then it was so trippy. Within a month, she won this trip that was part of some giveaway or whatever. She won this trip.
no.
And then her in-laws are like, we're going to take the family to Hawaii. And she's like, Talia, in 1 week, like 2 legit trips came to me because she was creating trips herself, the energy of travel, the energy of a road trip, of putting gas in the car and just going, right? That's what she really wanted. And there's always ways to bring it into the now, the freedom, the flexibility. I love that you said relief. That's a big one for money. That like, oh, thank God, my bills are paid. And so I love that you say that. So if there is a part of this you haven't already touched on, I would love to just hear straight, like, what is wealth energetics to you? And how do most people kind of get it wrong? I'd love to just kind of zero in on that.
Thank you for asking. So to me, it's about all the different areas of life. Okay. So it's not take money out of the equation. What makes you feel filled up in your friendships? What makes you feel filled up in your career? What makes you feel filled up in your romantic partnerships or your day-to-day life? And how can you pursue more of that to bring you the frequency of overflow, of expansion? And that is really what creates this transference that goes on to money. It's, we were talking about the abundance piece of like abundance is everywhere. It's just we're not looking at it. Like I bet you if you very unfortunately developed a lung condition or something like that, you would realize the abundance of air that you have at your at your availability, but we don't think about it because it's just there. It's there for us to breathe. But when you're having an asthma attack, you are very aware that air is a scarce resource, right? And so it's things like that of running water in your taps. There are people in this world who do not have access to clean drinking water. And it's something that us in the Western world just take advantage of because it's always there. But one of the things that I used to joke about when I first started in the manifestation world was I realized just how grateful I am every single day for running water because my ex-partner and I lived in a place that was running on a well system. And we had a longer winter that year. And so the well ran dry. And for 6 days, we had no water. We had to, we couldn't shower. We had to go into town to be able to get a shower. And those things you just don't think about. The amount of times that we went and literally undressed, went into the shower, turned it on and realized, oh, right. Because we just expect it to be there. And so that's something that you can use to recalibrate yourself and retune yourself to the frequency and the energetics of wealth, of abundance, of overflow. Even here, sometimes water runs out and I'm like, right, reminder for the gratitude of hot running water. It's just things that you don't think about, but are absolutely there. And I love the example that you gave before we started recording about the furniture and the items in your home. It's like, that's money. You had to use money in order to get it. And that's
if you had to sell all your shit, you'd be surprised how much stuff you have.
So those are all ways that you can look at items as money and abundance, all around you.
Yeah. I love to look at nature as I love that you said water, but like it is the symbol of abundance. Not only are we not worried about the leaves on the trees and if there's going to be more and what if they all run out and what if the trees, like we're just not, it's ever flowing. It's always flourishing. It's always replenishing. That in itself is magical. But I just like all the leaves on the trees, all the needles on the trees, the blades of grass, the molecules, the sun comes out every single day. Like that is the true frequency of abundance. It's like abundance is a lot of, and it's nourished and it's flourishing and it's everywhere. And so I started doing that too. I have like negative $10 or whatever in my bank. And I'm like, there's so much abundance around me. But I started reprogramming. Like I have an abundance of crystals everywhere in my office. I have an abundance of houseplants. I have an abundance of black t-shirts and yoga pants. But, truly, I have an abundance of so many things, of my pens, of journals, of notebooks. Like when you learn to perceive it, that's something that I'm explaining more to clients these days. Sources showing me how, like, when you can perceive it in your reality, you're already a match for it, or that's where we start to call it in. Because before, all we're perceiving is what we don't have. Perceiving, picking up on, noticing, letting into your brain is like, oh, I'm still not doing it. I haven't lost weight, or I haven't made money, or I haven't. But when we actually flip that fucking script and start seeing abundance everywhere, it totally, like you just said, it opens you up to it, because it's like, oh, wow, there is abundance everywhere. Also, you're buying things almost every day, whether it's your Starbucks, your groceries, you're paying your phone bill. Money is always. So when we say, I have no money, I go, incorrect. You may not have what you want, the amount you want, but there's money going in and out every day.
Yes, I love that so much. And that's the thing too, is like the cyclicalness of money. Money wants to be circulated.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I love about like a metaphor of money is that if you have still money, it's like bacteria grows and then there's mold and out and it gets smelly. It's like when you give, you're giving to the economy, you're giving to, people that you support. If it, like when it goes out, you have to trust that it is going to come back in. It's like a breath of air, right? You breathe in and things expand, and then you release and they go out. But you always know that that next breath is going to be there. It's like, I don't play God. I don't play universe. I don't dictate when someone comes and pays me, but I just know that they're going to. And so it's really that surrender piece that has to come in, rather than you trying to control it and you trying to be the puppeteer and the string master of your own wealth and success. Like your energetics and your inspired action are your job. And then the trust. And that's the hardest part, especially if we have gone our entire lives without. It's very easy for us subconsciously to project our past onto our future, because that's all we've known. But when the energy starts to shift, you will very quickly see some sort of the universe showing up for you. It might not be $1 million landing in your lap right away, but there is some sort of, like I said before with the guys, I started doing this confidence Kriya, and I had 3 dates within a week. And it's like, that's an abundance of men in my life.
There's D's everywhere, man.
There is just rain and D.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's not money, but that sure as shit was abundance. And so I say, okay, there is proof of it. Like it's working. The energy is working. It's like, okay. And then a client came and I was like, oh, okay, it's working. And then I kept showing up and I kept taking the inspired action. But your job first, before you can act, if you're in a shitty frequency, you're not going to be acting from your best self, right? You're hunched over, you're clucking away at the best email sequence ever. It's like, no, if you are activating your energy first, you're turning yourself on, you're lighting yourself up from inside, the inspired action comes from that. You'll be like, oh, this post, this email sequence, this is the next thing I need to do. And from that place is where you need to act. It's like if the
Mm.
idea comes, don't sleep on it, don't wait on it, go. And
Mhm.
that's your job. And then the universe responds to that.
Mm. I love the way you explain that. It's so perfect because to come back to what you were saying a minute ago, we are actually looking for that frequency of ease and play and freedom. So when I'm clickety clacking at my computer, my ultimate goal isn't like my 5-year plan. I still want to be clickety clacketing for 50 hours a week and not spending time at the river. My soul actually wants to create this business and do this thing so that I can stop in the middle of the day and go to the river in the day. Like now, everyone knows listening, but like the beach is part of my success plan. When I'm in a launch, I do baths in the morning where I'm like, it's launch day. I'm not launching into launch day in hustle mode. I'm taking time. I go to the beach almost every single day just to recalibrate or maybe to journal, do a meditation, or just be with the ocean. That is part of my success plan. That is part of what makes me magnetic, not the constant hustle. I just love that you're saying that. It's like when you become that person, you naturally are led to take inspired action and the momentum just goes from there. It's every time I manifest more money, I look and I go, it's not really a surprise that I did because I usually doubled down on like the devotion to myself or the energetic or taking more breaks, going away to an Airbnb, doing something fun, like not stressing about it. That's usually when the influx comes. Most clients come out of nowhere in my DMs or in my email out of nowhere, not when I'm like anxiously DMing everyone that's ever reached out to me. It's so backwards, but to me and you, it makes so much sense. It's the energetics.
I have a module title from a manifestation program that I put together called Fun Fans the Flame. And
Mm.
it's all about the frequency and the energetics of fun because the exact same thing. Fun is part of my success plan. Playfulness, travel, being at the beach. I'm very, very much a beach person too. And I am a 2-minute walk from the beach where I am
Mm.
here. And that's another reason why I keep coming here to
Yeah.
this spot specifically because it's just so easy. And I truly believe in like I walk barefoot on the beach every single morning and just make sure that my energy is anchored and grounded and like just appreciate this life that I created for myself because 5 years ago, this was just a dream.
Mm.
It wasn't real. And like sometimes then we get into the energy of like, okay, well, this is now my new normal. What's next? What's next? What's
Mhm.
next? What's next? But you have to like really call yourself back and be like, oh no, like I created this. And gratitude and appreciation are the gateway to getting more of what you want, not demonizing money, not shaming yourself for not being where you want to be. It's like life was not meant to be so hard. It's
Mhm.
we've been conditioned into the cog to be, the cog in the machine to produce when in actuality, like playfulness should be part of your success plan because that's
Mhm.
really the frequency where the like you open yourself up and you become less restricted.
Mm, I love that. I have something I teach. It's a chapter in my book called Pleasure Portal, and it sounds like the exact same thing. It's like that's where things explode, manifestation, momentum really picks up. Is that fun, that play, that portal of pleasure? Like I'll do yoga, and before I do this with everything, but I think, how can I amp up the pleasure? Okay, I'm going to burn some sage first. How can I amplify the pleasure? Okay, I'm going to like move around and dance first, or drop lavender on my mat, like essential oils or whatever it is, put on a heater or change, take off my bra, put on like whatever. Like, how can I amplify the pleasure here? And I'll think of that going in my car. I'm like, oh, I want to bring a hot tea or lavender dropped in my car. Lavender comes in a lot, but it's just sometimes like, how can I, it's that fun, it's that play, it's that pleasure. That's what you're meant to, do here as a
Yes.
human. Enjoy the mango, enjoy the sunshine. It's not supposed to be so hustly and hard. And there's seasons where we're really creative and like, holy shit, I create all this stuff. Or I was up till 2 a.m. because I was lit up, writing a song, painting a painting, doing whatever. That's great. It's not about non-effort. It's about pleasure and enjoyment while we are efforting. You might as well do it in a way that feels good, right?
Exactly. It's like we've gotten into this space in, the Instagram and the TikToks and all about like, if you just take a bubble bath, you'll manifest $50,000. And it's like, that's not quite how it works.
Yes,
It can. Yes, and yes, and.
Yeah.
And so there is this misconception that if you just think about it, it's going to land. And like, that's not how it works. It gets to be easy. And the concept of easy is because you're bringing joy to the work that has to be done. You don't just get shit without doing the work.
Yeah.
But it's when you bring this joyfulness and this pleasure and play to it, that's what makes it easier. And I do believe that you can manifest $50,000 from a bubble bath, but have you done the foundational work in order to get there?
Mm-hmm. That is totally it. Like we truly can create anything we can desire, but there is an energetic matching that has to take place. So if you just go like, that's going to solve all my problems, 50,000 bath, and you're like, oh, fuck, it doesn't work. The universe is broken. It's like, well, that just
Not quite.
Yeah, exactly. Yet when you do work yourself into that, like I go on a walk and I'm like, right now I am manifesting a best-selling book. I'm clients to come to me, my health, my vitality from this walk. That is being a deliberate creator. But we also have done the work underneath to understand that fully and not just be like, universe, save me. I'm going to go for a walk. Everything's going to change. And I've placed my order. Yeah, I love this so much. So what do you see in clients that tends to block us the most, would you say? If there was like a couple things, or even you 6 months ago, like what was the piece that made all the difference, do you think?
I mean, I feel like a lot of what we talked about today really hits home in terms of putting stuff outside of ourselves. That's a big thing I see a lot of people doing. It's like, if I do this, then if I, get the money, then I'll feel happy. If I dim myself for the comfort of others, then, I'll be worthy and accepted. It's like, no, be the truest that you can be to who you are. Your authenticity will naturally attract the right people, places, opportunities, which then can translate into wealth when you've got a business. But also, if you're in the 9 to 5, being yourself and making sure that you're in a career that you love, that you are like aligning yourself with the right company and their values, that's going to lead to you loving what you do. Like, I absolutely don't think that you can be in energetic alignment with something that is just like not meant for you, obviously, in terms of like trying to gain more wealth at a job that you hate. Isn't going to be the solution to the things. You've got to find something that you're actually passionate about and in alignment with. And when you are true to what is in your soul, no matter what it is, that's when the universe opens you up to receiving. And so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of just like deconditioning the money stories, the things that we have been taught to believe about money. My whole goal is to support women in deconditioning themselves from the patriarchy, in the sense of, oh, well, I need a man in order to be successful, or I need a man to provide for me. And it's like, you can absolutely be an independent, like a financially independent woman, and still be cared for by a man. And like, that is what I really want to empower women with, is that like, we're no longer giving men the power with the money and the finances and like controlling everything. We are becoming financially literate. We are learning about all of the different ways in which wealth can support us. And that is really where we take our power back. So that is something that I'm like also very passionate about, is helping women see that it's not just about like your career, it's about making money work for you and
Mm.
all of the different pathways that money wants to support you.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I've had a few clients that, for whatever reason, like they don't need to work and they sometimes even struggle with that, meaning that they're like, it's not like there's a business that I'm not creating. It's more just, I feel like I should be doing something. I feel like I should be earning it. And so it's even funny sometimes that there's levels of like feeling guilty for
Totally.
letting someone support you. But then also the flip side of people that go like, well, my husband makes the money, or, my partner does. And so like, I have no control over it. And it's like, there's both, right? You can be empowered in allowing the universe and life to support you. And there's also a lot of ways where you can create your own wealth, or a lot of people feel they're capped at a job. There's
Right.
other ways for money to come in, for wealth, for
Totally.
opportunity. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think, is like the guilt piece around it. I mean, my mom was a homemaker. She was a stay-at-home mom. She gave all of the power to my dad, and that when they separated, that was not an easy
Mm,
thing for, she had her own investments from prior to them getting married, but he made all the financial decisions. And it's like, in today's day and age, even if you are not the primary breadwinner or you don't bring in any income, you are in partnership. And therefore, money is a household thing that
mhm,
you guys should at least be communicating about
mhm,
and making decisions together. Because, you know, the last time I checked, the divorce rate was at 50%. I'm sure it's much higher than that now.
mhm,
And so, like, that's also not a plan, right? And so, you see tons of people who are going through this where it's like, oh, well, my husband said he was going to take care of me. Now we're no longer together. Now a, I'm backed into a corner. I mean, like, that's a whole other conversation
mhm,
and, podcast that we could go into. But it's really just about, setting yourself up for success, to not have to rely on someone else,
mhm,
and taking the power back for yourself and realizing that, like, you're going to feel so much better. We've been conditioned as women to, like, oh, we don't have to worry about that. Yes, you do. And
mhm,
so you feel so much more empowered. I was never taught any of this stuff. I now have a stock account that has a like 18 to 19% return rate on stuff that I just educated myself on, and I've done really well, but there's a savings account that I have now of like 3 to 6 months of income that I'm working on building. Should something in my business go awry, like,
mhm,
there's all of these things that I had 2 years ago no idea about. When I was making these high income months, I was spending it just as quickly as it was coming in. I paid off all of my, I use the D word to me is past investments, previous
mhm,
investments.
mhm,
Um, but I completely cleared that out in 2020. And then, because I only had one stream of income, when my business fell apart, I went right back into debt.
mhm,
I had to use the credit that was available to me,
mhm,
because I was also conditioned to believe that if I wasn't building my business and that wasn't succeeding, that I wasn't a successful entrepreneur, because I only saw one type of entrepreneur in the coaching space, which was, your coaching business is either making it or it's not.
mhm.
So I decided I wanted to be the voice of the person that goes a different way, that can teach you about passive income, about financial literacy, and the energetics behind it.
Yeah. And that's so important. That was actually a question I was going to ask you in kind of bringing this full circle. The physical, tangible act, like parts of not just money manifestation, but
Right.
actually money, wealth management, abundance management, because that was a big eye opener for me, was really looking at my relationship with money. And I think I fall into avoidant with a lot of things when I'm in a trigger spot. So I kind of just don't really look at it. And especially if it's like, oh, there's money in there, there's enough for insurance to come out. But what day does your insurance come out? Pop quiz. I'm like, oh, right. And everything always felt like, oh crap, that bill. Oh, I'll transfer money. Oh crap, that thing. And even with my husband and I, because of my relationship with money and probably his independent relationship, we had to come together. And
Yes.
that was tough for me, not just bank accounts, but like being on the same page. Okay, when does your bill come out? Okay, when is kickboxing due? Okay, when is our Shaw bill or our internet bill actually due? And getting back into the tangible parts of becoming comfortable with money and not avoiding it. So I'd love to hear, that was just my journey, but for you, some of those tangible pieces that you might help people with or what you've overcome for actually getting cozy with your money and coexisting with it.
That you hit the nail on the head with creating a relationship with money. So, if you were to ask yourself right now, if I was in partnership with my finances, would my money as my partner want to stick around? That was one of the biggest ahas that came up for me in learning about this stuff is if I'm not treating it with respect, if I am constantly avoiding it, it's texting me, it's calling me, it's wanting to be in communion with me and I'm like, nah, I'm good. It's like that's not a relationship.
Mm.
And money is very relational. So
I
the
was just thinking,
first
like, even like, oh, the money's there, the bill will come out. I almost picture like a partner being like, the door's open, come home whenever you want, leave whenever you want, like, whatever, it's fine, the door's open. Like, we're in a relationship, right?
Totally. And like, how would that make you feel as the partner? Right?
Mm.
You wouldn't want to be with someone that's just like, yeah, yeah, whatever. You know, like, oh, yeah, I'm sure we can go on a date. Oh, you don't want to do that. Fine. Like complacency. It's
Mhm.
that's not a sexy quality to me. So you have to really look at your energetics, like relationship is energy. And the biggest thing that shifted for me was putting a system in place. And my system is not super sexy. I just found something that worked for me. But this is something that I teach inside my membership, where every you get 3 live calls a month and one of those calls is a monthly money date. So I give you a checklist to run through. You get to go over the past month's income and expenses, and you look at, okay, what was I spending? It's very simple, but it's practice and embodiment of you getting into relation with your money. And then I give you some tangible tools like a budget calculator, like the easiest budget calculator you could ever think of. It's like, what's coming in, what's my expenses, and then from there, like, what's left over goes into, okay, first and foremost, I'm putting money away in my savings. I'm making sure my minimum credit card bill is taken care of. And then if there's extra, this is X, Y, and Z that we can
Mm.
do. So there's a lot of tangible tools inside there, but those are some of the things that you can look at. And then, you really do want to make sure that you're setting yourself up not just for the now, but for the future. So having what I call a wealth care fund, where it's 3 to 6 months of income should something happen. Now, this is something I've been building over time. It's also something that I sometimes even now have to take from if I'm not having as successful of a month because entrepreneurship is up and down. But that's what it's there for. And so when I
Mhm.
take from it, I don't feel guilty, but I'm always trying to build that up as much as possible to make sure that I'm set up. But at the same time, so many people think that they need to be paying off their previous investments before they can start investing. And if we know anything about our habits, for myself specifically, is that I'm always going to be putting into my previous investments. That card
Mhm.
is always coming out. So you have to learn how to manage both. You have to be putting into a wealth care fund. You have to be putting into an investment fund, even if it's only $50 a month to start,
Mhm.
until
Mhm.
you feel like that is, your finances are under control and you're spending less. Maybe you're finding ways to make more. But at the end of the day, when you look at your finances, you look at how much you're spending every month out of necessity, just
Mhm.
necessities, and then what your income is. It's like you come across a fork in the road. You either have to find a way to spend less or make more.
Mhm.
Like, that's it, right?
Mhm.
And no one really wants to have to cap their lifestyle. No one really wants to have to do away with things. So the more abundant version is to choose to make more money. And
Mhm.
that comes with, educating yourself on all the different ways that money can come in.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. It just makes it so tangible. And I use that as well with the relationship. Like, how are you talking to it? Are you helicopter parenting it? Like just really looking at your relationship with money. And it's so important because so many of us, even if we just feel frustrated with it constantly, even just that, if I was constantly frustrated with my husband, but never actually working through it or being like, what's underneath this? Like it would be a very dysfunctional relationship, right? So I love that you say that, and the technical or the tactical or whatever, the practical parts of it, I really agree with. And those are the parts I'll tend to avoid. And we were talking before we hit record about taxes and like doing like, okay, fuck, I'm going to just do the taxes. And I was sharing that I use a chocolate reward system for me and my husband where we get like our favorite chocolates. Like, okay, every time you do this form and, do a form, you get some chocolate. Every time
Yeah.
we did it, yes, let's celebrate, and do what you need to do to make it feel better because this is your money. This is your relationship. And what you put in, the focus, the intention, it's going to come out. And it's funny with manifestation because so much of it is energetic and magic. But I've really realized this lately, even in business, is like shit doesn't just only appear out of nowhere, kind of like the $50,000 bath. So
Yeah.
you do need some sort of structure, some sort of system. It's like, I'm going to be a millionaire by the end of this year. And I go, okay, how? As much as we don't want to obsess about the hows, you have to have something. Like, I can't
Correct.
expect my business to go from 3K to 40K just because I wrote it down. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be some sort of structure, right? And that's when we do get that help from the universe to guide us and whatever. But when it comes to money, like really just look at it. What are you avoiding? What are your habits with it? And really starting to change some of that and putting, like you said, a little bit away. And I had a mentor along the line one time that said to me, with money and wealth, what you truly want is the feeling of like security and money in the bank. It's not just the feeling of add to cart, add to cart, add to cart, buy, buy,
Right.
buy, shit showing up at your door. That's fun. But when you have 3 to 6 months put aside in case something should happen, and even when you need to take from it, that is the feeling of relief. That
Yeah.
is, I have my own back. So, what we are really looking for is that feeling of like, financially, if the hot water tank goes, or I want to take a yoga teacher training, or, I want to do something, it's there. Or if my health and I had to take a week off, it's there. It's fine.
I honestly can't even believe that we've had this conversation now and I haven't even mentioned about safety. Like,
Mm.
safety is what you are looking for, is what your nervous system needs in order to feel comfortable with money. It's not like
Mm.
the base, you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Mhm.
The base of it is safety, food, shelter, water. But
Mhm.
for us in today's day and age, we are not being eaten by mountain lions anymore. We have the shelters in place, but a lot of the time it comes down to a feeling of unsafety with money. So
Mhm.
the more that we can focus on, and this comes into the energetics piece, the more we can focus on feeling safe. And maybe we don't right away jump to the feeling of safety with money, but we work to bring safety into our nervous system. We are consciously working to calm ourselves down, that is how we bring that reset into our nervous system so that it can feel safe for things to land. Because if we
Mm,
are tight, if we are anxious, if we are in resistance, nothing's going to be able to come in. I
yeah.
always use the metaphor of like a closed fist versus an open palm. Nothing
Mm,
can land in a closed fist when you are tight and tense and resistant. But when you breathe,
mm.
it's like it opens everything up for you.
Oh, I love that. I heard that metaphor with water, and it was like the only way to hold water is to go in it with an open hand. As soon as you
Mm,
clench, it's gone. It's the same thing. And
yeah.
it's so, so true. Oh my goodness. This has been so nourishing and powerful and expansive. Is there anything that feels unsaid about money, or is there any way to sort of sum it up for those listening, especially that are on that precipice and maybe have been in that lack, that scarcity? Under 10K months if they're in a business and it's been tough and they're really looking to break into that ease? Is there anything else or anything you feel like you want to say?
I just think really like the first step is that radical acceptance, that piece of allowing ourselves to just be where we're at.
Mm,
Pardon me. Um, and to accept, okay, this is who I've been up until this point. It doesn't mean that I have to continue being this person. And that's that shift that will begin to take place when we say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to challenge myself to sit and look at all of my bank accounts today. Like that first step is going to start to bring that sense of relief. And then if you can couple it with, a safety, I even have a safety meditation on Insight Timer that I'm happy to share with you. Um, but to bring in that sense of safety and create it in the body, you're going to bring in that ease and that flow so that things can begin to land for you.
mm. I love that. I love when you said, look at
Radical
all,
acceptance.
yeah. When you say look at all your bank accounts, I felt the collective go,
I know.
but without the story, no guilt, no shame. It's useful information. It's helpful information in moving forward. I love that you reframe, you were saying about debt. And I always say it's an investment you choose to pay off over time. That's it. You don't have to have shame around it. People do it with a college education all the time, and no one goes
Totally.
like, oh, that's horrible. No, I just chose to pay it off over time, even if it was a whole credit card that I'm not really remembering what I spent it on, but you chose that, and that's okay. No shame. You can look at your
Yeah.
bank accounts. It's okay. It's useful.
The number's not going to change by you ignoring it. It's not
Right.
just going to magically, like you wave a wand and then all of a sudden it's a different number. So bring in some peace, some safety, like do the meditation, then look at your finances and just let it be what it is. And like,
Mm,
that's okay. But the more that you bring the awareness to it, the easier it's going to become over time.
mm,
That's the
yeah.
biggest piece. Bring the attention to it. The more that you do it, the more that you get uncomfortable, the sooner it will just become what it is. And
Mm,
that to me was like the biggest shift over the past few years is that I just allowed money to be what it was. And I tried my hardest to release the emotional ties to it and the meaning of what we make it mean about us.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I only make this. I only make that. I found myself a big milestone I reached, and it was actually just since I got Stripe, which was only like a couple of years ago in 2020, but it showed like of all time. And I passed a milestone. I was like, oh my gosh, like baby, I've made this much money. And then immediately my brain's like, well, that's over like 3 years. So when you have, it's not even actually. And I'm like, no,
Oh my
do
God.
not take this from me. I am
Yeah.
celebrating. We have reached
Yes.
milestones. And yeah, it's just like really embracing it and not shaming yourself about what you think it should be. And it, like you said, by avoiding it, it's not going to change, or shaming yourself, it's actually going to get worse if you
Yeah.
understand energetics.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this. And I know that this is going to pique so many people's curiosity. So where can we find you? What do you have going on? Where's the place you hang out the most? Just love to hear about your business for everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. So I am at Wildly Wealthy Woman on Instagram. And that is the place that I usually hang out the most. I also have a really beautiful Facebook community of like minded souls. We do weekly card pulls, we do live breathwork sessions, we do a whole bunch of different stuff. I've got monthly guest experts coming in, and that is facebook.com/groups/www movement. So you can feel free to come in and just receive all of the free guidance in there. And right now, I had mentioned the Vault, which is my monthly membership. You get 3 live calls a month. You get a money date, group coaching, as well as like a wealth embodiment practice. So that's really fun. It's only $111 a month. And I have a manifestation course that we also talked about. So it's getting revamped. I haven't launched the name yet. So I'll leave you guys in suspense, but it is going to be like a one-stop shop manifestation university. This has been like my bestseller, and I'm making it even better. So very excited for that.
I love that. All of that is so powerful. So I will put the links to everything below so that you can find Kiki and be in her containers. That Facebook group also sounds really yummy. Thank you for this expanding conversation. So much fun.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode on the Awakening Her podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation between me and my guest. And if you did, we would love to hear from you. Come find us on Instagram. All the links are below in the show notes. Take a screenshot that you're listening to this episode, sharing your takeaways or your enthusiasm for the show. Tag us both over on Instagram. And if you do that, I will send you a free gift. I really do hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I will see you in the next episode.